Yep, so this was a lie. As someone who was actually kind of looking forward to this movie, I'd be lying if I said the trailers and snippets from Captain Marvel were the best trailers and snippets to come from the MCU. With some shoddy marketing choices and some very rather interesting opinions on the internet, the movie seemed like it was fighting an uphill battle. Not to mention how not many people really knew who Captain Marvel was. And it's weird to say that I actually quite enjoyed it, but also found it underwhelming at the same time. I really dug how the story was told in a near first-person narrative, where we basically learn everything through Carol's eyes as she tries remembering things from her past self. With the story that was being told, I think the narrative was given a boost in having such a non-linear structure. She's given fragments of her memories bit by bit, moment by moment. What could have been this predictable, formulaic two-dimensional story structure actually turns into an interesting film about revelations. It takes some of the most predictable cliches and flips it entirely on its head. We're led to believe Yon-Rog's the bad guy because he seems kinda fishy at first when he's training Carol. Then we find out he actually cares about her when she gets lost on planet Earth, even going so far as to lying to Ronan where she is. And then we find out, no just kidding, holy cow, he's the bad guy. We're led to believe the Skrulls were deceivers because they were the ones that shapeshifted, only to find out the true deceivers were the Kree, in that they were trying to end the Skrull race when the war was already over. The gradients from the cinematography don't actually start to really pop until the second half of the film, but when it does, it fully immerses you into the movie. That, coupled with the sound design, made up for some really vivid scenery during the space adventures. There was this liquid, aquatic-like acoustic rhythms that went off whenever Carol started to light up, and it added this sense of tranquility and serenity that contrasted really well with Carol's ill-temperedness. It served as a great balance to the abrasive, almost explosive noise that played whenever she used her fists as cannons.
Control it.
Like I said, I enjoyed how the narrative unfolded through Carol's eyes. The amnesia aspect may be seen as a cheap trope for lazy storytelling, but I felt that it made the story flow in a much more organic way than if it had not done so.
I'm not gonna fight your war. I'm gonna end it.
But sadly, this also kinda crosses over with some of the aspects I did not like too much about the movie. This film hammers home the idea that Captain Marvel, the noble warrior hero, wasn't an actual person as a Kree soldier. She was a prop, a tool, a weapon used to do biddings of the Kree army when she had no idea what their true intentions were. But I don't know if the communication got lost somewhere between Marvel Studios and the director and Brie Larson, or somewhere between all three of them. This isn't one of Brie Larson's best movies as far as acting talent goes. The movie called for Carol Danvers to be this stern, emotionally lost and confused character that doesn't remember much of her past, meaning that she wouldn't have a wide range of reactions to things because she isn't very familiar with the things around her. But the thing is, that character choice, that starting point, isn't very engaging. It isn't very exciting to see someone you can't emotionally resonate with. Because the character is required to be emotionally confused, you never really see her become fully angry, fully sad, or fully affectionate. She's been told to always hide her emotions because it's a weakness. And while in the story, Brie's delivery makes sense kind of, at the end of the day, from a fellow viewer, it's as if you're shooting yourself in the foot. I was waiting for something powerful of her to happen where she just lets loose. Scenes like where she goes berserk from Room. Scenes where she gets to pull at your heartstrings with emotionally driven scenes like in Glass Castle. But sadly, those scenes never came. You get glimpses of them whenever she's with her best friend, but you never get that full picture, which ironically was something the movie was desperately trying to get across. It started with her in pieces, not knowing who she is with only a few scattered memories here and there, and she just wasn't altogether like they wanted her to be by the end of it. When the film finished, I wasn't really sure if I could say I knew more about Carol Danvers than when I first walked into the movie theater. It's like Marvel Studios, the director, and Brie Larson played a game of telephone on how they wanted Carol to feel, and they all misunderstood each other to a slight degree. It's not a deal breaker, but it's just so slightly off that it bugs me. That doesn't take away from the character dynamics between her and Nick Fury, her and Yon-Rogg, Maria Rambeau, and Talos. They were quirky and thoroughly charming playing off one another, and none of the negatives negate that. As a fan of the MCU, there was some really bad retconning that didn't take away from the viewing experience, but just sort of took away from the lore of it. I remember in like Winter Soldier, Nick Fury had a whole backstory of how he got his eye patch, and how it was because he trusted someone who he shouldn't have. The implications were that of a tale of trust and betrayal, something more than a flesh wound. It was the ultimate scar of cynicism, a representation of why Fury's so cold-hearted towards the Avengers, why he's so serious. How he got the scar in the first place was supposed to reflect those implications. But in Captain Marvel, it's kinda played up for laughs. It's undercut as a joke, completely taking away that layer of complexity from him. But who cares, the cat did it, lol. If they make a sequel to this, I do hope they look for a new director, because even though I enjoyed it, it still could have been so much more. I respect these guys for trying, but I'm not sure if they were the right people for the job. It's not bad per se, it's not incompetent. Most of the MCU films are for the most part at least competent. Some of them just have that sense of style to them that make them a cut above the rest. And sadly, this isn't one of those. This film flows in the same vein as The Incredible Hulk, where it doesn't really have that visual flair that makes it stick out from the rest. Maybe it was Brie and not their faults on how Carol was portrayed, I don't know. I just know it's a lot easier to switch directors than actors for the audience. This was supposed to be the movie that got me behind her, but it just didn't do it very well. Captain Marvel is the least interesting character in a movie called Captain Marvel, and that's not very good. I'm stuck between giving this a C+ and a B-. I'm not sure. I'd say I liked it, but the more I think about it, like seems like a very strong word. I'd say I kinda liked it. But yeah, I don't know. B- for now.